Having brought eternal peace to the vampiric dwarven queen, we continued east within the hallway, soon arriving at some massive stone double doors. We didn't know what was inside, but we sensed we were about to step into an important area. The double doors opened into a large chamber, an ancient palace room where the dwarven king and his personal guard dwelled long ago. Like everywhere else, this room had been ransacked and vandalized. Large paintings of past dwarven royalty had been slashed and broken, and the once mighty obsidian throne now lay in jagged pieces across the dusty floor. I couldn't help but feel a sense of shame and anger at those responsible for the destruction of this once glorious chamber. Spreading out, we conducted a thorough search of the area. Apart from a similar set of doors leading out of the grand palace room to the east, however, we found nothing more. Regrouping again alongside the shattered throne. "There is nothing here," Eswin reported, eyeing the doors to the east. "Let's move on." A moment later, we were surprised by a disembodied voice that called out, a mere whisper yet a strong voice filled with sorrow and pain. "Intruders!" Our light was suddenly snuffed out, plunging the chamber into total darkness. We then felt the air temperature drop, and the hairs on the back of my neck stiffened. Something very powerful was coming. Moments later, a ghostly figure appeared hovering above the ruins of the old throne. Translucent white, the figure appeared to be a noble dwarven man, dressed in ceremonial plate armor and likely the king of the dwarves here when the castle was attacked and destroyed. My entire party felt an incredible sense of fear and dread from the apparition, so much so that it was all we could do to stand there and face the ghost without turning to flee in utter terror. More spirits materialized around us, the king's personal guard, strong dwarven warriors seemingly invincible. Assuming they had come to attack, the ghosts instead readied themselves for a coming onslaught, facing the western doors with great intensity. As if watching a movie from long ago, the western doors burst open and in came dozens of ultimates, all of them floating in midair and attacking with fire, lightning, and even disintegration bolts. One by one the dwarven guards were destroyed, and soon the ultimates turned to face the king himself. "Your castle has fallen, your guard destroyed," one of the ultimates announced, 24 or so of the phantoms now encircling the great dwarven king. "You are defeated, we are supreme. I shall never bow to the likes of you," the king cried, defiant to the end. "Do as you will, I am no patsy to the ultimates. Then we curse you, King Strovik. May you forever haunt these ruined halls, and in undeath reflect on your arrogance and selfish pride." The ultimates then combined all their magical strength to transform the king into something undead, causing the entire chamber to be saturated with unholy light. The light faded and the king was left alone atop his broken throne, the flashback over. The ghostly being then looked at all of us, seemingly unable to differentiate between us and the ultimates from long ago. "How dare you attack this sacred fortress? All your lives are forfeit, I will destroy all of you." The ghost then slowly approached to attack, his anger absolute. "King, you're under a terrible spell," I cried, desperate. "Please stand down." Awaiting a response from the king, he simply ignored my passionate plea, continuing straight for our party. "He thinks we're the ultimates who attacked him," Red Fern cried out, preparing for combat. "He can't be reasoned with. Whatever happens, don't let him touch you," Kartha cried out as the ghost attacked. Despite the warning, Eswin was immediately struck by the ghost and felt a little of his constitution sapped away, rendering him weaker. Ariana and Sainairs were both permanently weakened by the ghost as well, but soon we destroyed the apparition. The ghost of the Dwarven King cried out one last time, his voice chilling my very soul. Instead of fading away, however, the ghost approached Ariana. The elf instinctively put her hands out to stop the monster, but the attack happened quickly and the spirit struck her, causing Ariana to shriek. It was then gone, and for a terrifying moment I worried that the ghost had possessed the elf. "Ariana, are you injured?" Red Fern cried as he stepped to her, inspecting the young woman for obvious signs of trauma. "Has the ghost possessed you?" I don't think so," Ariana returned, looking herself over. A thought then occurred to the elf and she withdrew the heart-shaped ruby necklace she had found earlier. Shining within was a bright reddish light, a light that wasn't there before, and I could only surmise that the ghost of the Dwarven King had implanted himself within the ruby. "Interesting," Red Fern commented, inspecting the jewel directly. "Hang on to this, Ariana. Perhaps we haven't seen the last of the Dwarven King." "Let's get out of here," Eswin demanded, having had enough of the old palace room. Following the warrior to the stone double doors to the east, we were dismayed to find that the doors were not only locked but possessed no keyhole, apparently no way of getting through. Hence, unless we could figure out a way to unlock the doors, we wouldn't be able to proceed east. Searching the remains of the obsidian throne, we soon found what appeared to be rusting wires within the stone, running underground and in the direction of the double doors to the east. Grabbing hold and pulling the wires as taut as possible, we soon heard a clicking noise from the doors as the deadbolt within was pulled out of place. "The doors are unlocked," Ariana shouted, able to push them in with relative ease. "Let's go." Leaving the Dwarven Palace room behind us to the west, we entered a small corridor leading north to south. Here, the corridor ended in yet another ceiling collapse, large timbers and stone preventing any further progress south. "The collapse of this corridor is very recent," Redfern stated as he examined the debris all about. "The ceiling could have come down just yesterday." "That's a little suspicious," Eswin returned, looking about as well. The collapsed hallway south a dead end, we headed north toward 2 doors on the right and 1 door at the far end of the corridor. Stepping into this smaller chamber, we appeared to have entered a ruined barracks. About half a dozen cots, stools, trunks, and so forth lay about in a jumbled mess, covered in a thick layer of dust, along with the poison clinging to the floor. We estimated that 6 guards once dwelled here, but that was about all we could tell. As we set about searching the barracks, we were disheartened to watch as several ghostly beings materialized, occupying the furniture as if they were still alive. We had faced this type of creature before, undead wraiths, and it only took a few moments for them to recognize us as living beings and attack. Knowing what to do, we quickly dispatched the monsters, the wraiths blinking out of existence once and for all. "Those were likely the king's royal guard," Kartha suggested, glad that they were gone. "May their souls now find peace." "I doubt there is anything here of value, but we may as well take a look," Eswin suggested, starting to pick through all the debris within the chamber. After 10 minutes or so of searching, we were surprised to find a bright, shiny shield mixed with all the junk here. So, the fight against the wraiths may have been worth it after all. Descending a flight of stairs and entering this larger chamber from the west, we found what appeared to be a destroyed trophy room, with all manner of shields, weapons, plagues and other mementos once attached to the walls and now lying smashed and broken on the floor. Like everywhere else, the room was a jumbled mess and searching it took some time. Looking about, it didn't take long to recognize that the room was stacked with dwarven skeletons, several dozen altogether. Worse, the skulls of these skeletons were all missing, stuck upon wooden poles as to make trophies themselves. The scene was horrific and again we cursed the ultimates for what they had done here. Standing there, we watched as the decapitated skeletons began to stir, sensing living souls nearby. The monsters shambled to their feet, likely about to attack. Sensing what the haunted bones here were truly after, I ordered the party to grab the skulls from atop the wooden poles and, as delicately as we could, hand them back to the marauding skeletons. My heroes looked to me in surprise but they followed orders, hoping against hope that the approaching monsters recognized the good thing we were doing for them and stand down. Thinking quickly, and acting even more quickly, we not only retrieved the skulls fast enough to prevent an attack but figured out which skulls went to which bodies. In turn, each skeleton received its skull almost as a gift, and instead of attacking, the monsters simply laid back down again, the unholy magic binding them here dissipating. Soon, all the skeletons had dropped to the floor again and were no longer a threat. "They just wanted their heads returned?" Ariana uttered, quite surprised by the turn of events. "These dwarves were quite honorable before they were slain," Kartha responded. "Even in death, that honor remained." The whole of my party agreed, the encounter drawing to a close. Approaching the stone door to the chamber beyond, we noticed light spilling from underneath, which seemed out of place. Opening the door, an array of magical lights silently floated near the ceiling, easily illuminating a small library, the northern, western and eastern walls lined with sturdy bookshelves and a massive table dominating the center of the room. While the air was dry and dusty, the library itself appeared in good shape, all the books were in their place and the chamber itself did not seem damaged in any way. Stepping into the library, we quickly reached the table, looking about for threats. None to be found, Redfern softly smiled, our party having reached its apparent goal. "This looks promising, surely details of the one plant must be here somewhere. I've already found it." Quickly standing to his feet from under the table was a well-dressed human, holding several old tomes and addressing me as if an old friend. "Darius?" I asked, utterly stunned. "You murderer! Now you die!" Ariana shouted, unsheathing her weapon and immediately rushing in the man's direction. Surprised, Darius took a step back and fumbled the books he was holding. Fortunately for him, Eswin put out an arm and stopped Ariana's attack, needing to understand what was going on. "This man killed my brother!" Ariana screamed, her emotions set wild. "He must die!" Confused, Eswin looked to me for advice. Stepping over to Ariana, I placed a hand on her shoulder and asked her to stand down, at least for the moment. Ariana reluctantly agreed and Eswin let go of her. "I remember you now," Darius said to Ariana in a soft, apologetic tone. "Those caves, north of Tobin, it was your brother who was sacrificed to the Nemesis plant. You murdered him!" Ariana cried out, barely able to hold in her rage. "He was an innocent, and you murdered him." The middle-aged man bowed his head, stepped to Ariana, opened his arms and bared his chest, seemingly inviting her to strike him down right here and now. "Yes, I took his life, of which I am truly, truly sorry. My life for his, you can take my life now if you please." Without a second thought, Ariana reached back to strike, about to smite the ultimate right here and now. Recalling what Darius had done to Ariana's brother Benjamin, how he planned to assassinate the Inner Circle member Margaret and help usher a new rebellion against the Circle, I was quite confused now, the ultimate not only sorry for his actions but apparently willing to even die for them. None of this made any sense. Wanting to strike the magic user down with every fiber of her being, Ariana instead dropped her weapon, turned to me and began to sob, her old wounds ripped open again. Comforting the elf, at least she stayed her hand and purposely let Darius live. "What is going on?" Kartha finally asked, breaking the awkward silence. Darius slowly stood to his feet again, politely answering Kartha's question. "The elf here is correct, I am responsible for her brother's death and I deserve to die because of it. But if you will spare me, I have news that you will want to hear." "And you are?" Sainairs asked, the question on nearly everyone's mind. "The name's Darius, and until recently I was yet one more ultimate of Chagaria scheming to sow chaos wherever I could, rebel against the Inner Circle and grow the Nemesis plants throughout Mariga. I met Lomtora and this elf here north of Tobin, where my accomplice and I manufactured a poison to drug the populace of Tobin so we could assassinate member Margaret as she was passing through. It was a good plan, but I was foiled by Lomtora and teleported away, lucky to be alive." "And where did you go?" I asked, recalling how Darius teleported himself away but left Rachel to die. "In my haste to escape, I foolishly returned to the power tower in Jeb, the seat of absolute power here in Chagaria," Darius continued, his story painful. "I had returned a failure, and the ultimates do not tolerate failure, not at all. I was imprisoned, tortured, then sentenced to death." The recent memories again flooding the man, Darius began to tremble, his traumatic experience easy to recognize. Indeed, I sensed that Darius had completely changed and I almost felt sorry for him. "It appears you've been through hell, then," I suggested, my naive empathy showing through. "The ultimates know well how to inflict pain," the shaken man stuttered. "For a while after my capture, death would have been a welcomed blessing." "And how, exactly, did you escape the ultimates?" Sainairs asked, a little disbelieving of Darius' story. "Like the elf's brother, I was fed to a Nemesis plant, along with several other enemies of the ultimates," Darius continued, staring blankly forward. "And not just any plant, but the one plant, deep within the depths of the power tower." "The one plant is located within the Jeb power tower?" Kartha asked, the information we had come to find. "I know where the one plant is," Darius answered, still disgruntled. "By chance, the plant was not particularly ravenous when all of us were fed to it, and I somehow managed to crawl my way out of its root system and escape the power tower dungeon. But it cost me my left hand." Pulling back the robes encircling his left arm, Darius revealed a bruised, bloody stump where his hand was once attached, a small but terrible reminder of his encounter with the one plant. Even Ariana turned away, the wound too gruesome to look at. The story of Darius seemed quite tragic. From what I knew of the ultimates, Darius' capture, imprisonment and near execution all seemed highly likely, certainly enough to transform an evil assassin into something a little more tolerant and open-minded. That was, of course, if Darius was telling the truth. He seemed convincing but I couldn't be completely sure. "So why are you here?" Eswin asked, still distrusting of the former ultimate. The Dwarven house here became the greatest adversary of the ultimates for decades, Darius responded with a soft, steady tone. I know where the one plant is hidden, but I don't know how to kill it. The plant is all but indestructible. I was hoping this library may provide clues in how to destroy the one plant. And what have you discovered? Redfern asked, not betraying our own motives for being here. Let me show you. Darius responded, stepping back to the books he had dropped a short time ago. Selecting a particular old tome, dropping it atop the stone table here and quickly paging through it, Darius stopped upon a page that showed an illustration of what must have been the one plant. Written in Dwarven, Darius then recited an appropriate passage from the book. Impervious to all weapons and spells, one must speak with plants and utter the safe word ulticide to cause the one plant to expose its reproductive organs. Pouring the strongest of acids upon these organs will castrate the plant and render it forever docile and useless. I know how to get into the dungeon beneath the Jep Power Tower, Darius continued, his sudden passion almost contagious. There is also supplies within the dungeon, acid for sure and a massive collection of old scrolls. I am sure we can recover a Speak with Plants scroll. With the knowledge from this Dwarven book, we can destroy the one plant and bring the ultimates to their knees. Darius closed the book and stood upright again, his face suddenly serious. But I can't do it without all of you. What do you say? Are we to presume that you're a redeemed magic user now? Redfern responded, recognizing the opportunity but still distrustful of Darius. Yes, certainly, Darius answered, remaining respectful. I now hate the ultimates as well and want to bring them all down. Shocked and horrified by the direction of the conversation, Ariana interrupted, addressing all of us there. You're not going to trust this wicked, evil man? Ariana condemned, her hatred for Darius still absolute. He murdered my brother in cold blood, he will do the same to us. My lady, I assure you that I am a changed man, Darius replied humbly, bowing his head in deep respect. The ultimate who sacrificed your brother for selfish gain is already dead, and I have taken that man's place. I submit to your party's judgment, tell me what to do and I will do it. It seemed that if I decided to accept the offer of Darius and try to destroy the one plant together, I may further break Ariana's heart in the process. How to respond? Putting it to a vote, I asked each member of the party whether we should join Darius and try to destroy the one plant together. One by one my heroes agreed, and I told Ariana that destroying the one plant, even with the help of Darius, would honor her brother Benjamin's legacy. Unable to accept the idea of Darius joining our party, however, Ariana turned away, her heart breaking further. While that was painful to see, I recognized what we needed to do in support of the bigger picture here. Darius, I agree our goals seem aligned. So yes, we will go with you to the Jep Power Tower and try to destroy the one plant. Well then go our separate ways. Then, Darius, what's your plan? Eswin asked, the magic user now part of our adventuring party. I recovered my ring of teleportation during my escape, the ex-ultimate returned, showing it to me on his remaining right hand. I can teleport all of us into the dungeon of the Jep Power Tower, where we will first need to secure some strong acid and a scroll of Speak with Plants. Then, I can lead us to the one plant itself, where we can effectively destroy it. And what sort of resistance can we expect? Eswin responded, needing to know more. I won't lie, the dungeon is heavily guarded, so we will certainly meet with resistance. There is also a tremendous amount of history down there, most of which I've never encountered before, so we will be dealing with a lot of unknowns. The mission will be difficult, are you sure you're up to the challenge? All in all, the plan of Darius seemed sound, at least providing a chance for success. I remained wary of my former enemy, of course, and would watch him like a hawk. But if he could get us into the bowels of the Power Tower, help us secure the items we needed and ultimately help effectively destroy the one nemesis plant, we will have completed a great quest and the inner circle would surely honor us accordingly. So, all in all, I was feeling good about the mission. The plan is viable, Eswin nodded as well, agreeing with Darius. It seems we are fortunate to have found you here in these ruins. It is I who am fortunate, Darius responded with a hint of a smile. I could not do this without a powerful adventuring party like yourselves. I am ready to teleport all of us to the Power Tower dungeon whenever you're ready, but you may want to rest and recover before we leave. Several of my heroes nodded their heads, glad to have at least a little downtime before initiating yet another difficult quest. I can't do this. Ariana suddenly blurted out, stepping away from me. I will not follow the murderer of my brother. Ariana, it's okay, Redfern responded, trying to comfort her. You don't have to trust this man, just tolerate him, for the good of the quest. No. The elf screamed, nearly inconsolable. He needs to go, it's either him or me. Oh, it appeared Ariana was demanding that I address her surprise ultimatum. Ariana, we need to stay together. Cartha replied, genuinely surprised by the ultimatum. Please, we've become a family, don't leave us now. The young elf stared blankly at all of us for several long moments, her look of shock and betrayal absolutely heartbreaking. On the verge of tears, Ariana then blurted out her answer, turning toward the only door to the south. You've made your decision, and now I make mine. And with that, Ariana rushed out of the small library and departed, leaving all of us in stunned silence. I am so sorry for the pain I've caused, Darius finally uttered, again bowing his head. She's so young, it's best we leave her alone for now, Eswin replied. Let's trust we will see her again very soon. My heroes all agreed, each of us wounded by the sudden departure of the elf. The party unexpectedly reduced by one, it was time to rest, memorize spells, and recover, the area here relatively free of the dungeon's poison in preparation of what would certainly be a very difficult quest to find the one plant and neuter it. Taking nearly a day to recover, we made ourselves ready, then Darius activated his ring of teleportation, whisking us away and into the bowels of the Jep Power Tower. And that's a wrap of episode number 40, The Dwarven Ruins Part 2. Expect additional episodes every few weeks as the story continues.